Half a day. Thank you all for being here. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is now called to order. Today's May 4, 2022. The time is about 1:18 p.m. In compliance with the open government law, notices for this public hearing were published in the Guam Daily Post on Wednesday, April 27, 2022, and again on Monday, May 2nd, May 2022, They've been posted to the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal, and this hearing is live streamed via the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. Notices were also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. We have one agenda item today. That is Bill number 291-36LS, introduced by Senator Telena Cruz Nelson, Christopher M. Dueñas, Amanda L. Shelton, V. Anthony Ada, Frank F. Blas, Jr. It is an act to add a new Chapter 91B to Division 4 of Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated relative to abortion, including abortions after detection of an unborn child's heartbeat, authorizing a private civil right of action. Please kindly adhere to the following hearing guidance and general rules of conduct for today's public hearing, which was previously provided in the public hearing notices for today's hearing and upon your registration. We have asked that individuals register to provide oral testimony at today's public hearing and for the hearing on Friday, May 4th. The committee has put this procedure in place where there is an anticipation of a high number of people expected to provide oral testimony. Individuals testifying at today's hearing were informed that they will be allotted 4 minutes to present oral testimony and that PowerPoint or video presentations are not allowed, and that oral testimony registration is limited to only one hearing date during one time block, so that we may ensure as much public participation as possible. Please note that unlimited written testimony may be submitted to my office by hand delivery or by email to Senator Terlaje Guam at gmail.com by the close of business on Monday, May 9th, 2022. I also urge you to submit a written copy of the oral testimony you will present today if you have not already done so. This will assist with an accurate transcription of this hearing. All oral and written testimony will be included in the committee report on the bill and made available for view to the public on the Guam Legislature's website. All testimony for today has been made available to all senators and the media and will be posted on my office's website prior to submission of the committee report. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and begin by stating their name for record-keeping purposes. Our time clocks are over there for your convenience. Questioning of panelists by senators will occur after each panel at the discretion of the senators. And the questioning by the senators, including answers, shall be limited to 5-minute duration per panel. If a senator is unable to finish his or her questioning in this period, he or she may be permitted further questions after all senators have been given an opportunity to question panelists and all panels have testified. This is intended to reduce the wait time for those waiting to testify. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. The personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator is not permitted. I'd like to thank all of you for attending today. I know we have a full lobby, also full of those waiting to testify today. Your participation and feedback at this public hearing is critical to the deliberations that all senators will have on this bill and the decisions they will make. A public hearing is required by statute on all bills to be considered by the legislature. I continue to firmly believe that the public hearing process is the gold standard as far as hearings are concerned. It allows everyone who wishes to provide feedback on any issue to do so, and this body is mandated to place all the testimony from a public hearing and the dialogue in that public hearing onto the public record. This is why we are having public hearings on this bill, not roundtables or informational hearings. Committee has allowed 16 hours of hearing time for this bill with afternoon and evening time slots to accommodate people's schedules as much as possible. Other important committee work was postponed in order to prioritize these hearings. These time slots were challenging to acquire due to a heavy schedule of budget hearings and meetings scheduled in May through June prior to the FY23 budget session and which will most likely take place in July and August. A few budget meetings were also rearranged by the Office of Finance and Budget in order to accommodate our request for hearing dates, and I thank the chairperson, Senator San Augustine, for that accommodation. Finally, please know that I am keenly aware that the issue of abortion is one of the most divisive, politically and emotionally charged issues of our time, and that any equal, respectful, and healthy discussion or debate on this issue can be difficult. We've seen throughout the decades-long history of the debate that when not approached with fairness, mutual respect, and consideration, any attempt at a healthy dialogue can easily shut down, and worse yet, compromise the safety of all people involved. This is the reason I've put much thought and consideration into the protocols for these hearings to ensure as much as possible that we facilitate fair and equal opportunity for feedback on this bill. And this is why I ask that everyone that is here today to provide testimony do so respectfully and with great patience and consideration for one another. I want to thank my colleagues for being with us today, beginning with the Vice Speaker, Senator Tina Muñoz-Barnes, the Majority Leader, Senator Cruz Dueñas, our Minority Leader, Senator Cruz Dueñas, and our Majority Leader, Senator Telena Nelson, who's also the Vice Chair of the Committee on Justice, Senator Telotaitigui, Senator Sabina Perez, who's also the Vice Chair of the Committee on Health, and Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Frank Blas Jr., and Senator Tony Ada. To those Masi colleagues. So before we hear from those testified, I'm going to invite the sponsor of the bill, the main sponsor of the bill, Senator Telena Nelson, to please introduce the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Bill number 291-36LS is an act to add a new chapter 91 Bravo to Division 4 of Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated. It is relative to abortion, including abortions after detection of an unborn child's heartbeat, authorizing a private civil right of action. This act is modeled after the Texas heartbeat law that has gone up before the U.S. Supreme Court 3 times and have withstood the muster. The Guam Heartbeat Act of 2022 seeks to ban abortion once a heartbeat can be detected during a sonogram or ultrasound. The Guam Heartbeat Act only allows private parties to file a civil action in either the Superior Court of Guam or the District Court of Guam against anyone that performs an abortion or induces an abortion. The minimum amount of monetary damages in such civil actions is $10,000. The act does not allow any government officials or government employees to file a lawsuit. This leaves the decision into the hands of the people. No section or provision in the Guam Heartbeat Act imposes criminal sanctions or civil liability against a woman that has had an abortion. The only exceptions in which an abortion is allowed are when a mother's health can be impaired or if her life is at risk due to the pregnancy. I'm sure we are all aware of the recent news yesterday. There are other countries that have laws in place to protect life, and I have seen the dialogue on social media. I respect your points of views. I understand that there are some certain concerns about the civil liability. I understand there are certain concerns as far as rape or incest. And so I thank you, all of you, for coming today to give your testimony on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. So for the record, the committee requested feedback, particularly from the Attorney Generals of Guam and the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and from them I asked as to the number of abortion procedures reported from 2017 to the current date. The Attorney General is with us today, and we are expecting the Department of Public Health. We've also received testimony on the fiscal impact of this bill from BBMR, which states that absent additional information, the Bureau is unable to determine the fiscal impact of the proposed legislation. Also for the record, the committee has received so far 127 testimonies in support of the bill and 678 written testimonies in opposition to Bill 291-36 LS. We'll begin with the first panel. We'll begin with the Office of the Attorney General. Please state your name. All of you, please state your name and your affiliation for the record when you begin. Thank you. Please proceed.
Buenas tardes, Madam Speaker and distinguished senators. My name is Jamie Canto. I'm the Deputy Attorney General for the Litigation Division of the Office of the Attorney General of Guam. And I am appearing as a representative of the Attorney General's office, who is here at the invitation of the legislature. Our office has transmitted written testimony electronically, and I'd like to be able to read that testimony into the record. Hafade, Madam Speaker, in the wake of yesterday's news reports that leaked a U.S. Supreme Court draft opinion in the Mississippi case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, indicating the possible overturning of Roe versus Wade, the current status of the law regarding abortion, and the right to privacy appears to be anything but settled. Bill number 291-36 mirrors the Texas Heartbeat Act, which was signed into law on March 19th, 2021, and took effect September 1st, 2021. The approach in Bill 291 and the Texas Heartbeat Act is different in that there is no clear state action. Instead, the law authorizes a private right of action. There have been numerous challenges to the Texas Heartbeat Act, and the matter has gone both before state and federal courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States. Because a private right of action is authorized and not a government action, the legal challenges have centered around the procedural issue of standing instead of reliance on Roe versus Wade. The term standing refers to a procedural issue that addresses the ability of a party to bring suit in court because that party has suffered some type of injury. Now, the litigation regarding the Texas law and similar laws across the country is still ongoing. However, to date, no court has found that the Texas Heartbeat Act or law derived from that act violates the Constitution. Most recently, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals dismissed all challenges to the private enforcement provisions of the Texas Heartbeat Act and sent the matter back to the trial court to determine whether the individuals challenging the law have standing to sue. If the draft opinion in Dobbs becomes final and the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade, policy decisions regarding access to abortion will solely be left to the legislative branch of government. Thank you. That concludes the testimony.
Thank you, Attorney Canto. We have not received in our office a copy of that testimony, so if you could just double check and send that in. I'd like to provide it to the senators. Thank you.
I was assured by my office that it's either was transmitted electronically just a little while ago or as we speak.
Okay, we'll double check. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Department of Public Health is not yet here. Attorney Scro is not yet here. Attorney Vanessa Williams? Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Senators. My name is Vanessa Williams. I'm a mother of 2 little girls. I'm also a lawyer. I litigate a lot. I'm not here to talk about ideological stances. I'm here to tell you why, as a constituent, as a voter, I think this is a bad bill. It's really poor lawmaking. First, Bill 291 does not guarantee anything good. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to stop abortions. Laws like this never have. They've only allowed rich people to go fly off island, get their abortions in Hawaii and California, which they'll continue to allow, and they'll force pregnant people who are here on island who don't have the means to fly off island to terminate their own pregnancies. Nothing you can do in these 20 pages is going to stop that. The only thing this thing does do for certain, these 20 pages, is create lawsuits. It's 20 pages of language crafted to create a superclass of lawsuits, giving civilians policing powers over anyone they think may have helped a woman access care. It uses language like, quote, aiding or abetting, which is typically reserved for criminal statutes, opening the door for civilians to police strangers and for vigilantes to collect bounties. Second reason Bill 291 is bad laws, it's not transparent. There's messages circulating that drafts of this bill have going around for 6 months. Where were these sponsors then? Where were the constituents invited then? Who did you speak with? What constitutional lawyers did you consult? What litigators did you consult? What sexual assault, rape, and incest victims did you speak with? Have you ever spoken to a woman who's had an abortion? What doctors did you consult? Were they obstetricians or gynecologists? The answer is we don't know. None of us know. The majority of the people of Guam don't know because this bill was circulated, drafted, and plotted in secret. This is poor lawmaking. This is not what we elected you to do. It's not democratic. It's not ethical. It's bad law because on its face, it's cut and paste from experimental legislation that's wreaking havoc across the country. It's not model legislation. It's not been completely vetted in the courts, and it's guaranteed to open the floodgates for more bad laws and more litigation to come, because it's mostly cut and paste from SB 8, a Texas law written by an extremist lawyer who is argued to use these pages as a blueprint to undo marriage equality, meaning interracial and gay marriages. And the architect of this lawsuit wants this to be a blueprint to attack the LGBTQT community. Yesterday's leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court doesn't change any of this, doesn't endorse the fact that this was poor lawmaking to begin with. It was irresponsible. The anticipated Supreme Court decision, although it is anticipated to reverse Roe v. Wade, doesn't say that we're making abortion unconstitutional. All it says is it's going to return the authority to regulate pre-viability abortions to, quote, the people and their elected representatives. Well, we are the people of Guam. We're not Alabama, we're not Mississippi, we're not Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, and we're certainly not Texas. We're not some other country. We're the people of Guam, and what's happening in these other states are warnings. They're not success stories. This legislation is guaranteed to be tied up in courts for years to come. Is that what you want as your legacy? We are Guam. You represent us, the people of Guam, and the majority of the people of Guam do not want this bill. Please listen to us. Keep bans off our bodies. Please reconsider, withdraw, and do not support Bill 291. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Williams. Do we have a copy of that?
No, you don't. That was mostly ad-libbed, but I will be sending plenty.
All right, thank you very much. Helen Middlebrook.
I'm Helen Middlebrook, and my association is with 11 children and a husband and 10.7 grandchildren. Madam Speaker, committee members, and senators, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this bill. A life given deserves to be a life lived. Life begins at conception. In fact, in no other time in human existence is there more life. The rapid cell division and differentiation of cells that happen within the first weeks of life are not to be equaled. Many years ago, Dr. Paul Rockwell, director of anesthesiology at Leonard Hospital in Troy, New York, was cited in a 1970 case against abortion in New York. 11 years ago, while giving an anesthetic for a ruptured ectopic pregnancy at 2 months gestation, I was handed what I believe was the smallest living human being ever seen. The embryo sac was intact and transparent. Within the sac was a tiny, approximately 1 centimeter human male swimming vigorously in the amniotic fluid, while attached to the wall by the umbilical cord. This tiny human was perfectly developed, with long tapering fingers, feet, and toes. It was almost transparent as regards the skin, and the delicate arteries and veins were prominent to the ends of the fingers. The baby was extremely alive and swam in the sac approximately for once a second with a natural swimmer's stroke, but when the sac was opened, the tiny human immediately lost his life and took on the appearance of what is accepted as the appearance of an embryo at that stage. This is an eyewitness testimony. At 8 weeks, you don't just have a heartbeat, you have a human. And if you do something to harm it with chemicals or machines, you will kill it. That used to be called murder. Natural law would protect the baby, and legislation should do the same. I could end my comments here, but the simple truth is no longer enough. The political climate of 2022 will not accept unaltered truth unless it comes with experience. So I'll give you mine. Some say you can't talk about abortion if you've never been pregnant. I've been pregnant at least 13 times, and I've delivered 9. Some say you can't talk about an abortion if you've never had one. One of the 4 babies I had that I lost made me sick for 10 weeks and died in utero. I had to have a dilation and evacuation, which is the same procedure as an abortion. I was fighting this procedure, and a person said to me, "It's not a baby anymore." And I said, "Yeah, it is. If they take it out, it's not going to look like a kitten." And when my doctor did take that baby out, there were obvious body parts. But you know what? I couldn't bury that baby, and that saddened me for years. I took comfort knowing that it was already dead when it was taken from my body. But mothers who willingly abort don't have that comfort. They get to live with sadness and guilt the rest of their lives. Finally, one argument against this bill is a straw man. That is that we should not pass a bill protecting an unborn child until we do better protecting the lives of the children already here. Pro-lifers are often accused of not caring about the island's abused and neglected children. I am a foster parent. For the last 8 years, I've been the mother of the forgotten boys, Nero and BJ, who both have disabilities. Guam already has laws, procedures, and programs that support our most vulnerable children. For example, Nero was hospitalized twice since the beginning of the year, and his bill is at least $40,000. And that is being covered by GovGuam insurance for foster children and Medicaid. So I thank you very much. We can always do better, but legislatively, we do value life. And the value of a child that we see is not greater than the value of a child that we have yet to see.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Middlebrook. Jane Flores?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Jane Flores, Director of the Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs. The Bureau of Women's Affairs is opposed to any legislation that inhibits a woman's constitutional right to choose whether and when to bear a child. I come before you today to testify against Bill 291 and to ask questions about it. If this bill is intended to become law, my questions are for the bill's main sponsor, Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, how would this bill work? Let's say a young woman in the Guam National Guard needs to have an abortion for whatever reason. A fellow soldier drives her to a clinic wherein the doctor gives the young woman medicine for a medical abortion. The soldier tells you he drove her to the clinic. Because you authored this bill and you want to set an example, you sue the soldier for aiding and abetting an abortion, because the bill says you can't sue the young woman. Now, if you and the soldier are friends and you know the soldier doesn't have $10,000, you decide to sue the doctor instead. The bill structures the resulting lawsuit as a civil proceeding, a lawsuit between private parties for monetary damages. I'm not a lawyer, but how would you, Senator Nelson, a person who was not injured or harmed by this woman's actions or the actions of her fellow soldier or those of the doctor, have standing to sue any of them? Won't the judge just throw out the case because of your lack of standing? Isn't that what Texas State District Judge David Peoples did in addressing the identical structure in Texas's law? Also, how do you prove that this young woman had an abortion? She's not talking. The doctor can't reveal anything because of federal HIPAA laws. You would have to rely on hearsay from the soldier who helped. You weren't in the doctor's office with her, you didn't see her take the pills, and she wasn't obviously pregnant. So how do you prove anything? Let's say, for argument's sake, that the civil court judge says, hearsay is good enough, and awards you $10,000 plus attorney's fees, which the doctor now has to pay you. How does this scenario, which is exactly what will happen if Bill 291 becomes law, prevent abortion? I'll tell you, it doesn't. This bill does nothing to prevent abortion. This bill empowers any money-seeking stranger who wants $10,000 with a way to get it. You claim the bill doesn't go after women seeking an abortion. That's a narrative perpetuated in your remarks and on social media. But isn't that effectively what you're doing? You're persecuting her, her family, her friends, her doctor. You want to make it so that if she chooses to exercise this right to autonomy over her body, it will come at a steep cost. When she is processing the difficulty of her decision and her reasons behind it, you believe it should cost her her dignity and her privacy as well. What happens if a woman suffers a miscarriage and some money-seeking third party decides to accuse a friend or relative of helping her get an abortion? A miscarriage is devastating, and 10 to 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage, according to Mayo Clinic. But to have someone accuse that your miscarriage was an abortion because they want $10,000 is horrifying. This next scenario actually happened to the daughter of a friend. The daughter and her husband had suffered several miscarriages, and they finally had a pregnancy that passed the 12-week mark. At 17 weeks, an ultrasound showed a fetal anomaly that would not have allowed their precious baby boy to survive outside the womb. They were devastated. Subsequent opinions confirmed the diagnosis, and their doctor told them they had a heart-wrenching decision to make. They could choose to carry him as long as possible, and if he reached term, they could hold him while he died, or they could choose to terminate and try again to have a healthy child. I'm not going to tell you what they chose because it's none of your business. You're not the woman's doctor or her partner. It's not your right to know, nor is it your decision to intrude upon. And it most certainly is not your job to legislate such an extremely personal, heart-wrenching decision for any woman. The majority of the people of Guam, and more importantly, a majority of the women of Guam, have made it abundantly clear that they support a woman's right to choose and that they support leaders who feel the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Flores. Former Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's always an honor to be back here. The Supreme Court draft that was released yesterday indicates that reproductive freedom across the country is in for a continuing, ongoing battle, and that's going to be the same here in Guam, no exceptions, as evidenced by Bill 291. 291 wants to insert, as Jane called this, money-seeking strangers into a woman's decision-making process. It also takes away the rape or incest as a reason to be able to get an abortion. I have been in your shoes before. I know what it's like to be here and to have to make tough decisions. And one of the things that I've always trusted when I've been here is to listen to the subject matter experts. It makes your job so much easier when you can rely on the subject matter experts. And in this case, the subject matter expert is the woman. The woman knows more about what should go on with her body, the decisions, the choices she makes. She is the subject matter expert of her body. I have so much faith in the judgment of women. I have a fundamental faith that they will do the right thing in almost every instance. When you think of how many times we turn to women, we expect women to take care of the household, to get their kids raised, to take care of their families. Their judgment is trusted so often. But here, in this bill, you throw out the judgment of women and you insert money-seeking strangers into their most basic decisions over what should be done for their health. Since this bill came out, there have been so many young women that have realized what is at stake for them, and I'm so gratified to see them coming out. And I wanted to share some statistics with them to give them an idea of the external forces that are around them and the horrible danger zones that they probably sense and know that they are in just by being young girls. Child Protective Services reports The most referrals to Child Protective Services are young girls between the ages of 14 and 15. And you see that in the newspapers every single day. You see how the girls are preyed upon every single day, the predation that they have to undergo. And of huge number of referrals that are at Child Protective Services, they're there for sexual violence towards them. Often by family members, often by male family members known to them. And of the latest report of the referrals to Child Protective Services, of this group, 56 of the teens were pregnant. So I want to give you a real life example of what you're taking away. If a young girl has been raped repeatedly by her uncle and 2 cousins, and she is now pregnant, she can, under Bill 291, she will have to live with that trauma, those memories. She will have to go forth and carry a pregnancy, and she can't make the choice to avail herself of an abortion because of rape and incest. So she can't take the choice to say, I choose to start anew. I want to carve my own path and create a life of dignity for myself. And so that's what 291 does. You're inserting money-seeking strangers, and you're taking away the rape and incest as a cause of action for a young person to seek an abortion, and forcing them to live with the consequences of that rape and incest.
Thank you very much, Senator Carlotta. Ramona McManus.
Test. Sorry. Hafaday, good afternoon, Madam Speaker, honorable senators, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ramona McManus. I'm a registered voter in Guam, a mother, a granddaughter, a sister, an aunt. I'm here today to represent not just myself, but for Safe Haven Pregnancy Center, a faith-based nonprofit organization voluntarily serving the community as a pregnancy resource center here on Guam. We stand in support of the Heartbeat Bill 291-36. Abortion doesn't liberate. Abortion doesn't empower. We know that women don't walk into an abortion facility feeling powerful. Women walk into an abortion facility feeling powerless. That is why they are here, why they're there. That is why it is so crucial that there is someone else offering to help, that there's another path, and there is hope for them somewhere else. We believe that life begins at conception. In the Word of God, the Bible, it reads in Psalms 139, 13 through 16, "For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, O God, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, yet being yet unformed, and in your book were written. The days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. So it is for this reason we believe that the life of the unborn is written in God's book of life, even before conception. Safe Haven Pregnancy Center provides heart-to-heart pregnancy education and care. Our services include free pregnancy testing, pregnancy verifications, client advocate support, and counseling. Clients are provided education on prenatal care, birthing, breastfeeding, postnatal, and parenting classes. Our center offers a Points to Success program for attending classes we offer by using points for the mothers to shop for their babies, items and baby gear, and for when the baby arrives, as well as maternity wear for moms. We also offer special classes on adoption, healing from past hurts, and post-abortion, while providing confidential, non-judgmental, compassionate care. We offer free services and support throughout the pregnancy and first delivery year of the baby. Whether a woman is pregnant, looking for help, does not know where to begin or who to turn to, there is help and there is hope, because there is life in her womb. This is why the heartbeat bill is so significant and crucial, and this is our prayer and hope that this legislation search with conviction on the decision on this bill to stand for every heartbeat and life. Thank you, and Sizus Maasi.
Sizus Maasi, Ms. McManus. Attorney Scrow, we had called you earlier, but you may proceed. Attorney Peter Scrow. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Peter Scrow. I'm here to testify in support of Bill 291. I've provided a 6-page testimony with exhibits, but I'm just going to read the first part for the record. I do want to say to all the senators that I listened to a little bit on TV of what was said earlier, and all of you, with what you have in front of you, you have my email address, you have my cell phone number. I don't think there is anybody in this community besides me that can answer the legal questions relative to this bill, because I wrote it. I literally spent 8 months on it, and despite what the opposition says, experts were consulted, and that's in my testimony who those experts were over a period of 8 months. But if I can just read the summary of my statement, Madam Speaker. Legal fact 1, the Guam Heartbeat Act of 2022 was modeled after the Texas Heartbeat Act. Legal fact 2, the Texas Heartbeat Act was signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott on May 19, 2021. The law took effect on September 1, 2021. Legal fact 3, in over 22 legal challenges opposing the Texas Heartbeat Act, no court has struck down the law. It continues to remain law today. Legal fact 4, there have been 2 hearings before the United States Supreme Court about the Texas Heartbeat Act, and neither time did the Supreme Court find it to be unconstitutional, nor did they strike it down. Legal fact 5, just last week in a unanimous decision, the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals specifically upheld the provision that gives private citizens the right to enforce violations of the Act by filing a civil action against any person that performs, inducing, aids, or abets an abortion. And just for the record, I've attached that 2-page decision of that court to my testimony. Legal fact 6, there are no sections, provisions, sentences, or words in the Guam Heartbeat Act that imposes criminal sanctions. The Act even prevents the Attorney General from issuing an indictment, so it is impossible for any criminal action to be initiated. Legal fact 7, the Guam Heartbeat Act specifically gives the power to the people, not government, to enforce violations of the Act by civil actions. This particular provision and the same provision in the Texas Heartbeat Act, and just last week, the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit did not strike it down. In fact, the court's decision also included instructions to the lower court to dismiss all claims alleged by the pro-abortion plaintiffs, which reaffirmed the right of private citizens to enforce the Act. And again, I point out that that 2-page decision is attached to my testimony. Legal fact 8, the ongoing Guam District Court case relative to medication abortions via telemedicine consults does not provide any legal positions that adversely affect the Guam Heartbeat Act. The district court case involved the challenge of a law that involves government action by government officials enforcing those laws being challenged. It is substantially different that the Guam Heartbeat Act leaves decisions in the hands of the private citizens, the people of Guam, where it belongs. Legal fact 9, the United States 50-year-old decision in Roe versus Wade has not, despite over 22 challenges, resulted in a court finding the Texas Heartbeat Act unconstitutional. Similarly to the Guam District Court case, Roe versus Wade involved the challenge of a law where the government was responsible for enforcing an abortion law. The Guam Heartbeat Act leaves the entire decision in the hands of our people. Legal fact 10, no section, provision, sentence, or otherwise in the Guam Heartbeat Act imposes criminal sanctions or civil liability against a woman that has had an abortion. The act specifically excludes it. Legal fact 11, the Guam Heartbeat Act is constitutional. I close by saying it is totally untrue, as the opponents have said in press releases, that the timing of this bill is politically motivated. I've attached as Exhibit B to my testimony is draft 2 of a referendum dated December 30, 2021. This all started with a referendum. It did not start as a bill. There was a group of people that wanted to bring this out to the voters of Guam, but when we realized that it would literally cost about $200,000 to do that, we just couldn't move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Attorney Scro. Attorney Anita Arreola, I understand she couldn't be here today, so please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Kiana Yabut. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Family Law and Rights. But today I'm actually here to read Attorney Arreola's testimony, since she is off island and couldn't be here today. And this is testimony in opposition to Bill 291-36. Bill 291 is blatantly unconstitutional for 4 reasons. First, a woman's right to decide whether to continue her pregnancy is still the law of the land under Roe v. Wade, and Bill 291 violates Roe. The Supreme Court has had different compositions since Roe was decided in 1973, with appointments from Democratic and Republican presidents. But the court has always been crystal clear that a state cannot ban abortion before viability. The Texas law, which is the genesis of Bill 291, has been challenged in court and so far has been rejected on procedural grounds, not the merits. The drafters of Bill 291 inserted changes that make it significantly different from the Texas law. For example, Bill 291 has an exception for a woman's life or health, but Senator Nelson and the other sponsors, for some reason, removed certain language, which would mean that the law would require an ultrasound before the abortion can be provided in the context of a medical emergency. This is a major obstacle in providing abortions to save a mother's life or health, and one that I believe renders the bill invalid. Second, access to abortion remains intact under the U.S. Supreme Court's undue burden test in Planned Parenthood v. Casey. The sponsors of Bill 291 make no effort to hide the fact that they are motivated by a complete disregard of the bill's unconstitutionality. Third, Bill 291 gives a private right of action to persons to sue, regardless of whether they suffered any injury or damage, violating the constitutional doctrine of standing. Fourth, Bill 291 is a deliberate attempt to evade judicial review in the interest of political ideology. Under the separation of powers doctrine, the Guam legislature cannot erect procedural barriers to prevent courts from reviewing a law's constitutionality. Apart from the bill's unconstitutionality, the insensitivity and lack of empathy for rape and sexual abuse survivors are appalling. Because there are no exceptions for rape or incest, it means that Senator Nelson and the other sponsors are coercing that person into a pregnancy they don't want and which was forced against their will. Women and girls who have survived rape or incest have already suffered horrific violence and injustices. But Senator Nelson and the other sponsors would inflict more horrific violence, injustices, and trauma by forcing them to carry these pregnancies to term. One of the key steps of being a rape or sexual abuse survivor is to be able to reclaim one's autonomy, safety, control, and decision-making. Senator Nelson and the other sponsors of Bill 291 would deprive survivors of the option of abortion so that they can begin healing and move forward with their lives. For over 30 years, the Guam legislature has attempted to restrict, criminalize, and deprive the women of Guam of their fundamental right to an abortion. Bill 291 is a full-scale assault on women, their healthcare providers, and their support systems. This bill is deeply offensive and blatantly unconstitutional, and we will not stop fighting until it is blocked. To quote Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, "All I ask is that you take your feet off our necks." Vote no on Bill 291. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yabut. On behalf of Anita Arreola, thank you very much. All right, so senators, you have 5 minutes each for questions and answers together and for this panel. Senator Nelson? Oh, okay. So Senator, Vice Speaker.
Maybe not a question, Madam, but the person who spoke about the safe haven, I think Ramona, you talk about a place where these women can go to, the location and number? You talk.
Yes, Senator, thank you. The center is called Safe Haven Pregnancy Center, and we are located in Assen.
Okay.
And the number that they can reach us at is 969-HOPE, HOPE. And we are also, if I may, we're also on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, there were a couple of testimonies that weren't submitted, so hoping that we as colleagues can receive copies that weren't submitted to us so that we can further look at them when we're deliberating. Thank you. Thank you, panel members, for being here. Senator, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Minority Leader, Senator Dueñas.
Madam Chair. I just want to go straight to the Attorney General, Canto. You opened, or the testimony from the Attorney General's office opened, obviously, I think we cannot ignore the current situation that's happening nationally with the leaking of the document of the proposed position of the courts on Roe v. Wade. Because this bill may be in conflict with current law, can you go ahead and discuss what the current law is and what would happen if it returned to the states, as many of the panel members have said and testified that this might return to the states?
Thank you, Senator. And there are two other attorneys on this panel who I'm sure would have opinions as well on this. I think the current state of the law is such that come June of this year, the country anticipates that the U.S. Supreme Court will hand down a formal opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson. This is the draft opinion which was leaked yesterday, and that will rewrite the script by which all courts will address any abortion-related case. If Roe versus Wade is overturned, the court finds, as is predicted by many, that the right to abortion will no longer be recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court as a constitutional right, then, as I stated in the testimony, all of those policy-driven decisions will be solely within the hands of legislatures across the country. And presumably the undue burden standard of Planned Parenthood of Pennsylvania versus Casey will be also no more. So then it really becomes a blank slate. If the court does deliver it back down to the states and say, this is a right or not by which each state can decide whether to grant to its citizens. There are, as the testimony points out, other issues related to standing, which are unaffected. The standing as related to the Bill 291 and its Texas analog SB 8, that will not be affected and will still probably present some questions for courts to consider. But that pretty much sums it up in a nutshell, Senator.
I guess I'll narrow the question. My research shows that Guam law currently is abortion is illegal on Guam.
So if you're referring to Title IX, I believe Chapter 31, it does currently say that abortion is a crime, and that law has never been repealed. It's never been enforced either, with an understanding that the U.S. Supreme Court cases of Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey would cause a constitutional challenge to that law. That would nullify that law. Thank you. That would nullify that law, or the constitutionality of that law would be, it would be deemed unconstitutional and unenforceable, currently and previously. Come June, it's anyone's guess. Until then.
Many states are opining that whatever law is on the current books would be a trigger law in effect, and would be the law of the land on the repeal of Roe versus Wade in the event that it happened.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question, Senator.
So if the Supreme Court does rule as the opinion, or as the leaked document states, that it would more than likely repeal Roe versus Wade, then whatever law is currently on the books in those states, territories, or jurisdictions of the United States of America would be the law of the land.
I would agree with that statement, yes.
So I guess I would go to Ms. Jane Flores. As Bureau of Women's Affairs, and in your capacity, has been publicly stated, the role that the governor has given you, have you ever sought to repeal the current Guam law that makes abortion illegal?
No, given the current climate in the legislature, we decided that that would not have been a prudent or productive avenue.
So, Attorney Williams, you're aware then now, as opined by the Attorney General Representative, that if the situation takes place as the leaked document nationally indicates a strong probability of Roe versus Wade being repealed, we currently have law on the books that makes abortion illegal.
Yes, that seems to be the intent of the drafters of this bill, is to criminalize women, which is not really the point of Bill 291, right? But to get to your question, that's why it's important, in light of the decision that was leaked yesterday, that senators take meaningful action and repeal those bad laws that are on the books.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you. We'll now go to Senator Daitigui.
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Senator Paris.
No questions.
Senator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no questions either. I appreciate the panel, regardless of their position, for coming and speaking out and letting us know what your thoughts are with regards to this issue. I do have to say, every legislature I've been in, and this is number 7, this issue has always come up. This is always a question or asked in running for office, so it's not new. For some, maybe they're newer senators, but thank you for coming and letting us know what your thoughts are. And thank you, Madam Speaker, just in terms of times of efficiency, because there are others to testify. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Blas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the panel for being here today, whether you're for or you're in opposition of it. You know, as legislators, we do take into consideration both sides, and we do have to deliberate it. The question that I do have with regard to the understanding of the bill. Okay, this bill obviously, first off, I'm going to state my case, my point. Okay, I am, if you can probably characterize me as an ultra-conservative in that I believe that life begins at conception. However, this bill provides that the action is actually, for lack of a better term, now actionable when there is a heartbeat, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, but that heartbeat is possibly about 6 weeks into the pregnancy. Is that right, Mr. Attorney? Scroll, thank you very much. So there's 6 weeks. So what this bill doesn't touch is the first 6 weeks of that pregnancy. Any comment on that? Ms. Flores, I think that you wanted to say something?
Most women do not know that they are pregnant at 6 weeks.
Okay. Well, I think that I don't mean to be insensitive, but a lot of times the conversation here is centered around rape and incest. And, the precautions that can be taken prior to that. or immediately after that? Again, these are just questions that I need to ask.
Well, Senator, in response to that, especially if it's a young girl, a lot of times she is fearful and it's a forced situation within, unfortunately, within a familial situation where the perpetrator has threatened the young girl, and a lot of times these girls don't know they're pregnant until a teacher at school says something is wrong and has them go see the nurse. We had one instance where a girl was 5 months pregnant before she didn't know. So yes, it was rather insensitive. Thank you.
Okay, well, I mean, there are more questions that I could ask, but I think I prefer more to listen to more of the testimony, and I appreciate, what you have provided. Again, whether you're for or in opposition to. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Blas. Senator Adat? He's not present. Senator Nelson? Well, the Vice Speaker wants one quick question, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, as I was looking over some of the provisions of law, I just wanted to ask, are there, maybe to the AG or anybody on the panel, are there any other instances in which private citizens are called to enforce the law, and is this unique to the heartbeat bill? Are there any other instances in which private citizens are called to enforce law, and is this unique to this heartbeat bill? Just looking at some of the provisions here.
Senator, who's your question posed to?
I said to the Attorney General's
Just
office,
Attorney
Madam
General?
Chair, or anybody on the panel.
Thank you, Senator. The Enforcement of Proper Government Spending Act, also known as the Taxpayer Relief Act, is the only other statute that I know of on the books that allows for a private cause of action by someone who has, is similar to this bill in terms of allowing someone who may be arguably disinterested in the subject matter to personally to bring a lawsuit.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to thank the panel for coming out today. I understand the concerns of civil liability. I understand the concerns involving rape and incest. We have, of course, conflicting views whether this bill is constitutional or not. And, I just want to say one thing, perhaps several, because Ms. Flores, she pointed out in a narrative form, in a story, what would I do? And you involved a soldier. First of all, it is not my place to pass judgment on anyone. And I don't pass judgment on anyone dealing with these unique circumstances. I would never, ever try to seek civil liability or civil cause, but I understand the crux of your story is the challenge for people that want to perhaps in one way or another, maybe through malicious intent, would like to seek some civil punitive damages, and I understand that concern in the bill. And so, this is something I will absolutely consider and look over. I understand that. Thank you very much for your courage, for your voices today, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much again to the panel. Sutsus Masi. Thank you. We'll now call panel 2. Please bring panel 2 in. Please bring panel 2 in. Who is this from? Oh, okay. Wait, who's it from? Kindly take your seats. We will begin. If we could please have as little distraction as possible while the people are testifying, so please hold the doors if we can. All right, and so we will begin now, and we've passed out all the testimony that have already been provided to us by these panel members. All right, so Maria Eugenia Leon Guerrero.
Hello? Okay. Hafaday and good afternoon, Speaker Terlaje and esteemed members of the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture. My name is Maria Leon Guerrero, and I would like to provide testimony on behalf of the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce in regards to Bill 291. Over the past several weeks, there have been several pieces published in the media, both in support and in opposition to Bill 291. The Women's Chamber recognizes that the pro-life, pro-choice debate is one of the most deeply polarizing in our community, even within our own membership. Despite our differences, there are specific concerns with the bill on which we all agree: the potential impact on businesses and access to health care. We feel these concerns must be addressed. The boundaries of what could be considered aiding and abetting are not clearly defined in the bill, and thus it leaves broad room for interpretation. For example, nothing in the bill precludes any of the following scenarios from being considered aiding and abetting: a financial institution who provided a loan where the proceeds were used to pay for an abortion; a health insurance company that covered the cost of an abortion whose legality was challenged under the definitions of the bill; a medical provider who counseled a woman on her options and referred her to an abortion provider outside of the territory; a gym where a woman engages in strenuous exercise that causes her to have a miscarriage; any business who pays for their employee to attend a conference, training, or meeting in another state, and while they are there, they happen to get an abortion. Although these scenarios may seem far-fetched, consider that Lyft and Uber have already pledged to cover legal fees for any of their drivers who are sued under the Texas Heartbeat Act simply for transporting passengers to their destination. The Women's Chamber would like to better understand from the bill's sponsors how our local businesses will be protected from frivolous lawsuits initiated under the private civil rights of action authorized by this law. The second point: this bill may threaten access to an already fragile healthcare system. We need to consider how Bill 291 would affect our island's medical providers. Medical providers, particularly those that specialize in women's health, prenatal, and birthing services, are placed at risk by this law. The law does allow exceptions for medical emergencies. However, each medical practice is going to have to make a business decision as to whether they are able to absorb the incremental costs and burdens of compliance that this law imposes. The Women's Chamber urges the bill's sponsors to solicit feedback from various medical providers in this space to better understand how this bill affects them and how it may impact the services that they offer. We can all agree that access to a robust community of medical providers is a fundamental requirement for a sustainable economy. More discussion is warranted. The business community, the medical community, lawmakers, and the public at large must understand that Bill 291 is not just a straightforward matter of pro-life versus pro-choice. This is a bill where we must all take responsibility to read and understand the fine print. The bill's unique enforcement mechanism through private civil rights of action raises valid concerns that could threaten the viability of local businesses and potentially limit access to health care. It is imperative that we hear from legal, health, and social services experts on how this legislation would affect our community before it moves forward. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leon Guerrero. Michelle Voacola.
Half a day. My name is Michelle Vicolo, and I'm here today to strongly oppose Bill 291-36. Putting a bounty of $10,000 on people for aiding and abetting abortion is dangerous, divisive, and irresponsible. This absurd, far-reaching law will create a nightmare world where citizens become vigilantes who can and will assert control over other people's bodies. These citizens acting on behalf of the law will have to defend themselves by providing evidence that the embryo has a heartbeat. How would this even be possible? Because last time I checked, performing a medical procedure without consent is assault, and obtaining private health information is a violation of the law. The right to privacy, HIPAA, and the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure, whether search of a woman's body or her medical records, seem to make this law unenforceable. Knowing all of this, I can't help but to think that this bill isn't actually about the right to life. Rather, it's intended to terrorize and inflict emotional distress on people, thereby scaring them out of exercising their rights. This is extremely dangerous legislation that has the potential to create a violent culture of intimidation and abuse. Is this bill really about saving the lives of the unborn, or was it a strategic move to pick a galvanizing issue to stand on right before election season? If you are truly pro-life, then start by creating legislation that helps living, breathing human beings who are struggling to survive on our island. Guam has one of the highest poverty rates in the entire country, with the median average income at only $29,000. The average house on Guam right now costs $380,000 or more, or $1,800 a month or more in rent. Gas is nearly $6 a gallon, and meat and fish prices have rose nearly 29% this year. It is nearly unaffordable to live here. Not only this, but sexual assault and maternal mortality rates in Guam are higher than the national average. If you honestly and genuinely care about life, then create legislation for increased access to contraceptives, family planning services, comprehensive sex education, equitable access to reproductive health care, affordable housing, mental health care, and legal work protection such as paid parental leave. That is pro-life. This regressive, punitive legislation not only denies women of their individual personhood, but it is incredibly invasive, inappropriate, and far from pro-life. Women have been having abortions since the dawn of time, and this bill will not stop them. You can either come to grips with this reality and make it safe for them, or continue to put them in danger. Each and every single one of you sitting before me today was elected to serve and protect our community. Please do that. This bill does neither of those. Please oppose or reconsider your support for 291-36. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bocola. Dr. Francine Napati.
Buenas and hafade, guao si doctora Francine Napati. Gagi Guini said tihu supopoti Bill 291. Gos peligro esti na perniponi para famalawan guahan sa ti sinia insegui hafamas maulik parahami. Bill 291 is the latest in a series of potential laws introduced in Guam to create more restrictions for abortion practices. After the passing of the most restrictive abortion law in 1990, we are here today because Bill 291 continues in the same tradition as its predecessor to create obstacles for women to access abortion services. It continues to frustrate me that so much collective energy is spent on introducing legislation that places barriers on abortion rather than implementing policy that will prevent many of Guam's societal issues, such as our high rates of domestic and sexual violence, rape, sexually transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies, and most especially, the absence of effective sex education programs in our school. Bill 291 does not solve any of these problems. It instead creates a new one. It limits access to reproductive health care and creates physical barriers for women to make decisions about their reproductive health. Abortion is not an issue that anyone takes lightly. Abortion is a weighted decision that women have to make when they carefully consider if they can continue a pregnancy. Abortion is not a decision that should ever end in the criminalization of the woman or the clinical practitioner or anyone who aids and abets them who performs it. Given how heavy a decision that a woman has to make is, why would anyone then support Bill 291, which severely limits women and forces them to make this decision in an unreasonable amount of time and under unreasonable pressures? Rather than focusing efforts on implementing restrictions that have irreversible repercussions, time and resources can be better spent creating legislation that focuses on prevention. We as a community need to take a more proactive approach to solving our social ills, such as mandating comprehensive sex education and providing infrastructure that gives our people better access to reproductive health care and services. For example, a bill that mandates comprehensive sex education will center around discussions on how to have safer sex that will prevent unintended pregnancies. Guam currently has no law that mandates comprehensive sex education in our schools. Therefore, I implore you to be transformational change agents. Resources already exist that would aid in the implementation of a policy such as this, and I brought one of the workbooks today. Doctors Lisa Linden Natividad and Tim De La Cruz wrote the sex education curriculum, Navigating Personal Well-Being and Sexuality in Chamorro and Chuukese Communities for Guam Students. This curriculum is available at the University of Guam Press, but without a legal mandate for comprehensive sex education, we cannot get this curriculum into Guam schools, where it is sorely needed. I respectfully ask you, senators, to redirect your efforts towards the creation of more responsible and effective legislation. Vote no on Bill 291 and instead author laws that are targeted at prevention and will give our people better sexual health care and education. Si Dios masi.
Si Dios masi, Dr. Napati. Monica Flores.
Hafa Senators, my name is Monica Flores, and I vehemently oppose Bill 291-36. I'm here as a private citizen and indigenous, queer, non-binary activist. It's difficult to look all of you in the eye and approach this calmly. I need all of you to know that my body is sacred, my body is sovereign, and no one in this legislature or in the Supreme Court can say otherwise. I am deeply disappointed and outraged that 5 senators have sponsored a bill based on conservative, right-wing, misogynistic policy in Texas. And I am further appalled that 2 of those senators are women. I'm also disappointed that 2 of the sponsors are not here right now to listen to us today. We all made time to be here today, so I wish that they had shown up. All of us are bearing witness to many wars right now, including a war being waged on our human rights here at home and in the United States. A war on our access to health care, a war on our capacities to rise from cycles of poverty and violence, a war on women, on LGBTQ and gender nonconforming people, a war on indigenous people and people of color, a war on the poor, a war on our dignity. Those 5 sponsors and any other senators who support this bill are contributing to those harms. If passed into law, this bill will not end abortions, but it will end safe abortions, and that blood will be on your hands. Although we wish that we lived in a world where all people were protected, we're free from poverty, addiction, homelessness, patriarchal violence, white supremacy, militarization, and war. That is contrary to our colonial realities, which is precisely why we need the right to choose. We endure our ongoing struggle for sovereignty in our land, for our lands and for our people. Empire is constantly tightening its grip, literally poisoning our lands and waters, refusing our freedom. Empire is willing to sacrifice everything, food security, climate justice, genuine security, in order to wage war. It's your job to fight against this oppression, to fight against the condemnation of women, and to stop the criminalization that comes with placing $10,000 bounties on those who offer support to anyone in need of a safe abortion. We need to destigmatize abortion. We need to stop shaming the people who need them. We need to stop placing restrictions that require unimaginable harms. Unimaginable harms. are committed first and proven or reported, rape, incest, risks of death, in order for someone to be able to terminate a pregnancy. There are many reasons why someone would make that decision, and those reasons are none of our business. We need to protect our right to privacy. Every single one of us here knows and loves someone who has needed an abortion. To say we do not is a lie. This issue impacts women and those who not identify as women who can get pregnant. It impacts people of all classes and facets of our community, but it especially harms our most vulnerable, underprivileged, and exploited community members. We need safe, accessible health care, and that includes abortions and birth control. We need sex education, comprehensive sex education, better public education, and better child care overall. We need resources for our mental health crisis, our housing crisis. We need food security, protection of our aquifer, protection of our ancestors, environmental justice. We need you senators to focus and find the resources. Abortion has and always will exist. We deserve safe and accessible healthcare and abortions. It's our right, and we need you to defend that right. Do not pass Bill 291. Sizos Maasi.
Sizos Maasi, Ms. Flores. Vanessa Dueñas.
Hafaday Senators. My name is Vanessa Dueñas, and I am here representing myself and Masakata Collective to state my opposition to Bill 291-36. It hurts my heart that I have to stand before you today, but I'm here to stand up for women's rights, the right to choose, and to oppose the policing of women's bodies. My Tata Bihu, Manuel Cepeda Dueñas, would always say, there's no use having a good head when you're doing bad things. And do you know what he meant? That you could be the smartest, most powerful person in the room, but it means nothing when you are doing bad things. Because that energy that you circulate with your actions will reflect out into the world and onto our people. This bill is bad. Senators in support of this bill, I think deep down in your hearts you know it. We know it, and that's why we're standing here today. We could be doing many more positive, productive things with our energy. But because this bill is reflecting bad things onto our people, I'm here to stand up for us and for the rights of our women. A woman, and that woman alone, is responsible for growing a child in her womb for 9 months. Her body alone pushes that child out into this world. This sole fact should be reason enough to be that it is up to her and her alone to choose whether or not to carry this life to term. To make that important decision, whether or not it is the right time for this child to come into this world, not just for the child, but for the woman carrying that child. Our children deserve better futures. And it is up to women and women alone to decide whether or not the time is right. To be sure that we can adequately support another life, and to ensure that our children have those better futures, so that Guam has a better future. Government has no business telling a woman what she can and can't do with her body, and we deserve better. Our Chamorro women deserve better. The people of Guam deserve better. As Chamorro people, as people of the land, as human beings, it is our divine obligation to take care of one another. And this bill does just the opposite of that. This bill will only further separate us and turn our backs on one another. And for what? What does it cost for an individual's human rights? And we have been priced out at $10,000. Think of our daughters, and please stop doing bad things that are not good for our people. Leave women's bodies alone. Do the right thing and let us decide how we want our futures to look like. Sizos Maasi.
Sizos Maasi, Ms. Dueñas. Patria Antalan.
Okay, before I start, I made a typo. I put Bill 281. It should be 291. If you can make that correction on your copy. Okay. Hafaday, Speaker Terlaje, and Senators. My name is Patria Untalan, and I'm a retired teacher librarian and also a mother of two. I'm here to talk on my behalf as an individual. I am in favor of Bill number 29136 LS relative to abortion, the unborn child's heartbeat. So what is life for you, and what is life for me, and also what is life for the unborn child? Once a baby is out of his or her mother's womb, it's all about relationships. Having a good life consists of having good relationships. Those spousal relationships, parental relationships, sibling, school-related, coworker, neighbor, and the highest and best relationship between one's creator, God, are just some examples of relationships. Do you know that abortion turns the mother against her own child? The chance of a relationship cannot even begin should abortion be allowed to happen. What drives this hideous crime of abortion? For the doctor, I would say money. For the mother, I would say shame and destitution. There's also evil influence, those who surround the mother or who you would consider bad advisors. Now, what about birth defects? God does not make mistakes. Defective children are part of His plan. If only a mother can see that in the whole scheme of things. I encourage those mothers who know in advance about the defect their child holds to bring that child into the world anyway. May this bill become law so as to allow the mother to do the next best thing for both of them. Give the child up for adoption, for foster parents, or to an orphanage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Antalan. Anthony Fruch? Anthony.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for introducing this bill for life. Life was created by God. Everything was created by Him and for Him. Without Him was nothing made that is made. We all here are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image and likeness of our Creator. Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, God called her to bring to life a Savior in Jesus Christ. She brought the glory of God. There was a demonic entity, which is Satan, who tried to kill Mary. That's why they had to flee. Okay? Well, when a mother carries a baby, a mother is carrying the glory of God, because that baby was created by God. God creates life. What about all the ladies here? What about if their mothers would have aborted them, or my mother would have aborted me? Where would we be today? Life matters, and it matters to God. Molech was in the Old Testament. They took their babies and they sacrificed it to the gods. That was idolatry. Well, when we take our babies and when the baby is aborted, that's the God of convenience. That's idolatry. And God will judge. He judged the nation of Israel, and the nation Guam shall be judged according to God's standard. Because I love you, I have to love you with the truth. The truth is that God loves life. God created life, and God should be the only one to decide when life is taken. If we want to be responsible, let's be responsible by waiting until we get married to have a relationship, to have sexual relationships. Then a baby can be born in a good home where they'll be raised in the admonition and fear of the Lord. If a man rapes a woman, castrate him. If a man, is there incest in the house, castrate him. When you implement laws like this, I'm telling you, that's not going to be men that's going to be raping little girls or molesting little girls. When you implement those strong laws, you will definitely put fear in men. See, and when you put that fear, you will see less crimes against women. So if we really care, let's take a hard stand against this stuff. You matter. You all matter. And I love you all, but I cannot love you with a lie. The beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. And if we fear God, we're going to do the right thing by God. Thank you for your time. We love you.
Thank you, Mr. Fruge. Clarissa Torres.
Hafide Guahusi Clarissa Torres. I am a massage therapist, a mother, and a survivor of sexual assault. I am here to represent women, survivors of sexual assault, and foster children. While it is commendable that the senators who are in support of Bill 291 would like to believe that they are working to protect the lives of the people within our community through the introduction of this bill, the focus of our government officials needs to shift towards fixing more pressing issues at hand. The people of Guam have already suffered division due to previous vaccine mandates, but rather than focusing on bringing the people back together and bettering our communities, we are seeing yet another tear in the fabric of our already worn-down community. This ideology that an individual's medical confidentiality is accessible public information is false, further endangers our island's community, and is a direct violation of the health entity's Hippocratic oath. Any choices made by any individual which affect their health and well-being are between themselves, God, and whomever that individual deems trustworthy of that precious information. If you are not living in their shoes, experiencing their circumstances, who are you to violate their freedom of choice and disrespectfully decide what is best for their health and their future? Even if you were actively a part of their lives and supporting that individual, you are not entitled to choose what is best for their lives or their future. As a healer, massage therapist, and a survivor of sexual assault, I have been studying trauma in order to heal from my personal traumas and to better help those who seek healing work from me. As a result of those personal studies, I can see that there are many consequences to the individual's holistic health which are not being considered with the introduction of this bill, and I have a few questions. Why aren't preventative actions that produce long-term community benefits considered? How does prohibitive action that puts the community at risk of turning on itself and its members protect human life? One example of preventative action that the government of Guam must consider in order to protect the lives of its people can be done through the action of fixing our school infrastructures and systems in order to give the younger generation the best resources available for their futures. Along with this, including better sex education so that the youth can be fully aware of the life-altering consequences that irresponsible sexual activities would have on their lives. Other actions to prevent the deterioration or loss of life can be made through ensuring that all health entities on Guam have their systems updated with the most effective processing and current modalities, allowing for the different healthcare providers to consider the whole health of the patient to meet their needs and address the root causes of their addictions or their systemic health issues. As an individual who consistently works to heal, better understand herself, and evolve, when I decided to turn to the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center for their assistance, I was met with outdated paperwork, copies of copies, outdated processing, and a deteriorating infrastructure which made me feel unsafe and that I was not receiving adequate care. After sharing my experiences with others in my social circles, it was confirmed that I was not the only individual to feel unsafe or experience these feelings of inadequacy and danger. This is also applicable to our hospitals and other Guam healthcare systems. If the government and its officials want to focus on protecting life, why isn't the focus on bettering the lives that are present and suffering? Rather than trying to control what a woman does with her body, please focus on another avenue of correction. fix the foster care system so that the many foster children who are suffering from developmental trauma of unstable or unavailable family environments can receive all the care, and most especially the mental health care that they are in desperate need of. Developmental trauma can begin as early as the womb and can continue into the growing stages of life. If any woman is forced to have an unwanted pregnancy, that child will be born with deep developmental trauma that began from the womb. They will be a deeply wounded individual within our society with little to no resources to heal from their developmental traumas, whether they are from the womb, family resentment, or foster care travesties.
Ms. Torres, if you could please wrap it up.
Sure. If the senators and the government officials want to protect the community, then focus on the needs and fix the faulty systems that are in place. Take care of what is present and renovate the faults within our structures so that we have a better one with a more solid foundation for the community to trust and rely on. Protect life by being a better example of a leader to the future generations. Si Dios masi.
Si Dios masi, Ms. Torres. I'm very grateful for all of you who've come to testify today. I want to open the panel for the Vice Speaker. Questions or 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the panel for being here this afternoon and truly taking the time to listen to your testimonies today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senator Dueñas. Senator Taitigui. Senator Perez.
No question. I just want to thank the panel for being here today.
Senator Brown. Senator Blas.
No question. I just want to thank the panel too as well. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to point out, it was brought up in one of the testimonies about castration laws, and that I want to say that we already have a castration law that has been put in by prior legislatures, but I don't see that that has had an effect to reduce rape, reduce sexual assault at all. And the castration laws, I think the studies have actually shown that these perpetrators and pedophiles are not afraid of God or our castration laws. They have an illness, and the castration law itself treats them with chemicals. It does not cure them. And I have done a lot of research on this, and I have not found treatment that will cure that type of pedophile or sex offenders. Again, I am very grateful for all of you who've testified today. I'm very glad to hear the voices of our community.
Okay,
I'm not asking any questions. I'm just stating what I know the law to be. But I thank you for your testimony. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vigorously took notes, and I noted down a lot of your concerns. I also see that there are perhaps some, I see that this bill has really impacted a lot of people's histories over the past couple weeks, and I thank you for your courage to come out and give testimony today.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you again. Si Dios masi. Thank you for waiting. We'll resume with testimony from this panel. We'll begin with Heidi M. Ballendorf. Again, time limit's 4 minutes. There's a timer over here. Please state your name and any affiliation for the record. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, members of the 36th Guam Legislature. My name is Heidi Ballendorf. I reside in the village of Tumon. I am a registered voter. I do want to just take a minute to say that I am saddened by, I am aware that your staff has been assaulted verbally by the other side, and I want to just extend my prayers and condolences to your staff, because I've heard back from some of them that they've been, yelled at and things like that, and I just don't think they should have to endure that. So I've been calling to encourage them in particular. I am, of course, in support of the heartbeat bill. Every Chamorro family has a story about the second Jose or the second Maria in their family. Why is it? Why is that? Because the first one didn't make it to their first birthday. Less than 100 years ago, our babies didn't make it. And I invite you to look at any cemetery on Guam where you'll find many headstones of babies who died before their first birthday. To this day, we celebrate one-year birthdays. It's a huge celebration. The 2020 census shows that Chamorros are a minority in their own island, yet Chamorros are aborting their babies at the highest rate in Guam, according to the last official statistics. And I say, protect our culture and stop killing Chamorro babies. Right now in the California Assembly is considering a bill that you can kill a baby 20 days after it's born. And I am concerned that that legislation will come here to Guam. I asked the pro-abortion supporters, what is the acceptable age to take a life? It doesn't make any sense if we're told protect our culture, but we're killing our babies. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So please search your heart, search your conscience. Ask God for wisdom. If you ask him for wisdom, he will give it to you, like he did with Solomon, who was the most wisest man in the Bible in that time. And he will give it to you. And so I ask you again, please support and pass this heartbeat bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ballendorf. Patricia Perry.
Good afternoon, Senators and everyone here. My name is Patricia Perry. I'm a mother of 5 children, a grandmother of 9 children, and 1 great-grandchild. So anyway, I am here to support this heartbeat bill. I'm supporting this bill, number 29136, the heartbeat bill of 2022, introduced by Senator Telena Nelson, co-sponsored by Senator Cruz Dueñas, and with following co-sponsors, Senators Amanda Shelton, Tony Ada, and Frank Blas Jr. If they remain silent, the rocks will cry out. Jesus replied to the Pharisees when he was rebuking his disciples to be quiet, to be silent. Yes, the other night I heard silence may be necessary in some cases and is considered golden in others. However, the sound of a heartbeat means the world of difference. It means life. The other night I heard comments about abortion being emotional, as an emotional issue. Yes, it is an emotional issue. The title of the bill refers to the heart, the body organ which is the main engine, the lifeline that generates life for the whole body. A tiny baby's heart is no different from our hearts, except in size. Sorry, I cannot see too well. Okay, its heart pumps blood, which provides oxygen and nutrients throughout the tiny body. When a tiny baby's heartbeat in utero is heard by the first time by its mother through the ultrasound machine, she may feel the excitement of new life growing in her. This heartbeat is most essential for an abortion-minded woman. Hearing the heartbeat of her unborn child is very impacting and may be the saving grace in preserving the child's life. Hearing the heartbeat of a human being means it's alive and deserves to be cared for, to be protected, nurtured, and loved. A heartbeat is an affirmation of life, a wonderful sign that someone is alive, able to give and receive love. My experience regarding the happy sound of a heartbeat occurred when a friend took her young son to the dentist for some dental work. During the procedure, the unexpected happened. The young boy who has a disability began to suffer heart failure. Oh my gosh. For basic dental work, my friend almost lost her son. The medical staff worked hard trying to resuscitate JR. After some time, which seems like an eternity, they finally detected a heartbeat. He was out of risk. My friend at last began to settle emotionally after she heard her son's heart beating. I became aware, realized that there is nothing more silent. The deepest silent is a heart that has ceased to breathe. It was totally impacting experience, a most powerful sense of awareness. We must stand up for the innocent, to be the voice of the voiceless, never stop defending life, never remain silent. If we don't speak, the rocks will cry out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sperry. We're now going to hear one testimony by Zoom. Donna Mila Martinez. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you for providing the accommodations that allow me to testify in support of the heartbeat bill. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful and kindle in them the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and thou shalt renew the face of the earth. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And with the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits that prowl throughout the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. This afternoon, I come before this legislative body to testify, despite the limitations I have personally. Because despite the scientific evidence that human life begins at conception, we must write legislation to legally recognize the humanity of a developing human being in the womb at its most vulnerable stage, so that its right to live is protected. So we spend this time appealing to the humanity of each of the lawmakers to recognize the scientific evidence provided by the most simplistic technology that measures unequivocally the heartbeat of a fetus to protect it from another human's violent act to end its life, something the most basic human society recognizes. Not just arguments based on beliefs that is only held truth by the person spouting it, but scientific truth that can be tested and proven over and over again with the same results. I state this because of the language used when the discussion of abortion is allowed to happen, because truthfully, it's a topic treated with high levels of emotions, whether you are pro or anti-elective abortion. Please note that I use the term elective abortion, not just abortion, because abortion actually can be spontaneous rather than elective. Spontaneous abortion is the medical term that describes what a non-medical person will call a miscarriage that occurs in the second and third trimester. The pregnant mother goes into early labor, and the baby is born before reaching full term. Often, this is a case where the baby is no longer viable. or the mother's body is no longer able to sustain the life of the baby. A DNC is done to ensure that no tissue is left in the uterus that could poison and kill the mother. Spontaneous abortions can occur, and often this is when women's reproductive health is an issue, and all the medical technology to prevent a spontaneous abortion is availed to the mother. In a previous hearing that Senator Rodriguez led, I testified sharing the story of my high school friend asking me to help her because her mother was forcing her to have a second abortion. She was pregnant and wanted to keep the baby. Her own mother forced her to have her first baby aborted. Despite the fact that she and the father were willing to raise the child, their choice was not accepted. Thankfully, she was able to bring her second baby into the world after much personal drama that I was included in, and I will refrain from sharing at this time. The point is that she didn't choose to have an abortion, but was forced to have one anyway. We are here today because society has created an environment that stigmatizes pregnancy, whether it was a consensual or not a consensual act. Pregnancy as an unwed mother is such a taboo that saving face is the reason elective abortion is accessed, which is the actual poisoning and dismembering babies while in the womb while their hearts beat. The stigmatizing language faced by pregnant women is real, and we must work on changing that stigma. This heartbeat bill is the beginning of that change. My first pregnancy, which according to the former Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero's testimony, makes me an expert. So I'm going to speak as an expert. My first pregnancy resulted in a spontaneous abortion at 5 months and 2 weeks in. From the time I was aware I was pregnant, I was filled with fear and uncertainty. The things I couldn't control was how my family and friends would feel, their expectations of me, what would happen to me. Because being an unwed mother in the middle of my 3rd year of college and dependent on my parents for financial support, it was definitely a scandal. I had no one to talk to, no family and no friends. This meant my pregnancy was hidden, not talked about. The day I lost my baby, the only person that was with me was a med student who kept his hands on my belly for 5 hours and held a stethoscope with another hand to monitor the baby's heartbeat. They waited for me to go into full labor and delivered a girl. I later named her Carla. At that time, there was no medical technology available that would have helped her survive as a preemie. She lived for 5 hours. An intern stayed with her while I underwent the DNC. Because she didn't survive, her birth was recorded as a spontaneous abortion. Not a life, but a spontaneous abortion. The stigma of being unwed, pregnant, and sadly aborted was more than overwhelming. I was not allowed to mourn my loss. I was just left to pretend it never happened. My second pregnancy, I was still unwed and getting ready to graduate.
Donna
Fortunately,
Mila, I
the pregnancy
apologize.
resulted in a mass of cancer cells.
Yeah, I apologize, but if you could try to conclude soon, please. You've exceeded your time already.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Resulted in a mass of cancer cells developing from a fertilized egg. I went through a DNC and chemotherapy treatment. The stigma is being unwed, pregnant, and miscarried prevented me from being consoled or even allowed to seek consolation. My third pregnancy, I was at the time unwed, but working for a Catholic school and was the minister and catechist. I didn't hide my pregnancy. The words abortion were placed before me, not by the father of my baby or his family, but members of the church who were scandalized by my being pregnant and unwed. I didn't meet the criteria set by society to celebrate my pregnancy. Never mind that I had insurance and was independent and working. What they were concerned about was saving face and avoiding scandal. Only the labor laws protected me from losing my job. Fortunately, there were others who did support and celebrate my pregnancy despite my unwed status. Today, my son will turn 15 next month. We, as a society, have stigmatized pregnancy, whether a woman is married or not, whether it was planned or surprise, whether it was consensual or not. Being pregnant somehow is looked upon as a problem, and the solution is to electively abort the baby in the womb. I remember being that I am not going to hurt the baby because it wasn't really a baby. It wasn't born, and it hasn't arrived because it really is only a glob of cells. It's like removing a callus. It was their way of trying to convince me that I shouldn't feel guilty by not recognizing that I was carrying a human baby in the womb. That if I could see if only as a glob of cell, I will have no problem getting rid of it. The heartbeat bill recognizes that a fetus is not a glob of undifferentiated cells. We need to support this bill. And I urge everyone to hear and to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Ms. Barbara Moyer?
Thank you, Senator Terlaje and assembled senators. I thank you for the opportunity to testify in favor of Bill 291. In my 81 years, I have spent 63 of them studying the Word of God. There I found truth, not man's opinion. As the Lord Jesus Christ said that He's the way, the truth, and the life, so the very words of God handed down to us are the way, the truth, and the life. So that you would not be uninformed of these truths, I have submitted in written testimony many of the references for you to search the scriptures for yourselves. I would like to take the allotted 4 minutes to bring some of the most profound truths to you in oral testimony. Much insight is gained in the formation of a new life in Psalm 139 that was already quoted by one of the testifiers today. King David says to God, "For it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in secret. Your eyes saw me when I was formless." I've provided many such Old Testament references about the viability of life in the womb in the Old Testament, but orally I'd like to skip ahead hundreds of years to the New Testament with the arrival of the promised deliverer, Savior, in a scene which has already also been alluded to in these hearings, a scene between Mary, the mother of Christ, and Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptizer, both of them carrying children yet unborn. After Mary's had accepted the angel's message that she would be a virgin mother of the Son of God, she set out and hurried to the hill country of Judah, where she entered Zachariah's house and greeted Elizabeth, 6 months pregnant, with John, who would be the forerunner to announce the arrival of the promised Messiah, Jesus Christ. When Mary greeted Elizabeth, the scripture says, the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaped inside her. Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women, and your child will be blessed." When I heard the greeting of your sound, the baby leaped for joy inside me. John, in the womb, responded with personhood, though yet unborn. In the Gospel of John, the Apostle John says to Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews, who tried to understand the spiritual concept of being born of the Spirit, how it differed from the first birth, and asked, was it possible to enter his mother's womb a second time and be born? There was no confusion in his mind as to how he got into the world, just confusion on how he could be born again, which would be by faith. And finally, I look all the way to the Epistle of Galatians, where the Apostle Paul uses the same kind of language as the prophet Jeremiah to describe his calling from God. But God, who from my mother's womb set me apart and called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son in me so that I could preach among the Gentiles. So my focus today is not the constitutionality of this bill, but on the heartbeat. And our responsibility, your responsibility, and instructions are very clear from the wisdom book of Proverbs, written by Solomon, the wisest man in the world, where it says, chapter 24, I quote, "Rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to death. Don't stand back and let them die. Don't try to disclaim responsibility by saying that you didn't know about it. For God, who knows all hearts, knows yours, and he knows that you knew, and he will reward everyone according to his deeds. May God grant you continued insight and direction as you bring this most needed bill into law."
Thank you very much, Ms. Moyer. Sharon E. O'Malley. Okay, just a second.
There it is. It's on.
Let's
Can I
start again.
Start
Yeah.
again. Start again. Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you for allowing this hearing, and thank you for allowing me to be here. As I start my testimony, I will first state that I am strongly a person of faith, the Catholic faith, and I am not ashamed of that. Many people will throw that as a negativity to my testimony that I am pro-life because I am Catholic. Well, as I said, I am Catholic, and I am proud of being a Catholic, but unfortunately for the pro-choice, pro-abortion people, I didn't start as a pro-lifer because I am Catholic, but because life and science have made me pro-life. After I became a pro-lifer, my Catholic faith simply reinforces that and confirms pro-life. As a Catholic, I grew up not really thinking of abortion as a major issue. It wasn't until I was finally told to look and study the pictures of aborted babies. I looked, and I mean really looked, at the pictures. I looked at their bodies laying out in pieces after being torn out piece by piece. I looked at pictures of babies burned by solution. I looked at babies thrown into trash cans. I looked at their tiny fingers, their tiny toes, their tiny bodies, some of their eyes half opened. How can anyone deny that these aren't dead and murdered human beings? Science has brought to us the ultrasound machine, which allows us to see what is happening inside the womb of a pregnant lady. Science has brought to us into the light and into the know. So as a Catholic, I say God made the scientists smart and able to bring us the ultrasound and advanced knowledge. So there's my Catholic side kicking in, okay? As to the heartbeat bill of 2022, I've read and reread the draft bill, and I support it. The idea that a heartbeat will be the indicator of life inside the womb is just that. It is a life and needs protection. A woman who has found out that she is pregnant and is not sure what she wants to do is not really thinking clearly, and some are in a panic mode. It's sad that people think an abortion solves their problems. I don't think she realizes the long-term effect of what this will do to her. It has been proven that women who have had an abortion will suffer some form of post-abortion stress, whether soon after the abortion or for some many years later. They need support and care. and an abortion is not the way out. Sadly, we have OBGYN doctors who claim not to do abortions, but are willing to point them into the direction of how to get an abortion. Can you imagine that? A baby doctor pointing the direction on how to kill your baby. This is how they keep their conscience clear. It's similar to those who are pro-choice who say, I won't have an abortion, but I'm not telling someone else they can't. It's like Pontius Pilate. Here comes my Catholic. He washed his hands at the decision of Jesus being put to death instead of Barabbas. I didn't condemn Jesus to death. The Jews did. They cried out, crucify him, and they did. Pontius Pilate walked away without any guilt. This is the pro-choice thinking. I didn't have an abortion. I didn't tell her to have an abortion. It's not my fault. It's her body. It's not my abortion. It's not my baby. Her body, her choice. Wash your hands, all you pro-choice people, and walk away. The pro-choice and pro-abortion people are really upset. The heartbeat bill is dangerous to them. They want to deny that a heartbeat signifies a life. They are afraid that people will be afraid to perform abortions, both surgical or chemical. They are saying that it will create a group of vigilantes lurking and peeking into their neighbors' bedroom windows. They say that it will drive women back to back alley abortions. What? Well, didn't they know that abortion is sophisticated now? We don't do back alley abortions anymore. We give women pills and let them do their abortions now in the privacy of their own bathrooms. Come on, people, get with it. We've gone from back alleys to do-it-yourself bathroom abortions. We are a latty-tatty group. Okay. The heartbeat bill puts into place safety nets so that people won't be out there suing each other left and right. Attorneys' fees and reimbursements have been addressed. This alone should keep anyone from becoming so-called vigilante. The fact that a baby's heartbeat can be detected early is an indicator of life. The heartbeat is like a message from the womb. If you recall the movie Horton Hears a Who, the whole town came out to shout, we are here, we are here, we are here. And the people heard them and then believed Horton that they were actually people living inside the flower. It's the same for the baby. His heartbeat is saying to us, I am here, I am here, I am here. I am alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Malley. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Senator Shelton. And again, thank my colleagues who are here today. The Vice Speaker, Senator Dueñas, Senator Nelson, Senators Taitikwi, Perez, Senator Brown, Senator Blas, and Senator Ada is back again. All right, we're going to proceed with Maria Martinez.
Good afternoon, Senators, and everyone here today. Thank you very much for allowing us to have this opportunity to give our input to this life-affirming Bill 291-36, the Heartbeat Bill of 2022. I am Maria L.D. Martinez, but better known as Mary Lou Martinez. And as a resident, I come here as a resident voter of Mongwong, a mother, a grandmother, and a daughter recently of my mother who just turned 100 years old, who had 10 of us. And every one of them, every one of us, she regarded as a gift from God. I am not a biologist, but I learned years back in middle school science class and in my high school biology class that human beings begin at fertilization and conception. It wasn't even in my religion class. Yesterday, the supporters of this bill who congregated outside, for me, simply represented the reality of the overwhelming number of Christians and Catholics, voters here on the island who support this bill, and we're telling our lawmakers that they want this bill passed. It's refreshing to see a bipartisan bill, a bipartisan anti-abortion bill, and I might say an ecumenical bill because of the number of Christians and Catholics supporting it. Most of all, that group outside conveyed the message loud and clear: we do not take abortion lightly. Contrary to the merely minority coalition group who wrote an open letter to Speaker, misleading and claiming that this bill is dangerous on a medical, legal, and political level. How could it be? Abortion, after all, stops the unborn baby's beating heart. Anti-abortion laws, on the other hand, protects women from the health risks and the medical procedure accidents that a surgical or a chemical abortion causes. As the good Dr. Shea can, and I believe has attested, when he is called to fix a botched abortion regularly. This bill then saves 2 lives at a time. Praise be to God. How can this bill then be dangerous? Politically, I think it's an economic benefit, removing the cost of providing government-subsidized abortions. Today's paper in the Guam Daily Post, May 4, I read that Planned Parenthood and other abortion rights groups will spend $150 million throughout this coming midterm elections to convince the widely and growing anti-abortion population that similar bills like this local heartbeat bill and others going up all around the United States goes against reproductive rights. It's no secret that the federal government provides tax dollars to Planned Parenthood. As a social moral justice, it's also a social moral justice benefit because it saves the taxpayer from subsidizing the cost of government-sponsored abortions. God is the author of life. So women as mothers, forming and developing strong foundations in their families are where we will find the backbone of the communities here on Guam. I'm not a pastor, but as I read the letter to the editor on 4/22, entitled Regarding the Judgment of Women, enumerating the various successful professional women who have attained their statures and the leadership positions women hold in our great island of Guam, I'm reminded of this scripture reference. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and suffers the loss of his own soul? Or what exchange shall a man give for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then will he render to every man according to his works. That's in Matthew chapter 16, verse 26. Because after all, God is the author of life. I would like to encourage all our Christians and Catholics and all the ministries to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. Christian St. Nicholas.
Hello. Hafide. My name is Christian St. Nicholas from the village of Derido. I come here as a son, a brother, and an ally. I stand here before you today to please reconsider and join me in solidarity to oppose Bill 291. For some time now, I have heard rumors about this type of bill being put on this floor, and honestly, I was very scared. I've been scared for my fellow Famalawan who deserve the right and freedom to choose what they do with their bodies, their choice. It's honestly hard to see that our island and America is headed in a backward direction, taking rights away that have made people feel safe and secure. What's next? We're copying this bill from a Texas law. Florida just introduced the Don't Say Gay bill. Alabama just introduced SB 184 that goes against trans rights and targets trans parents who affirm their child's sexual identity. I'm scared that Bill 291 will open the door for other laws that go against protecting the people of Guam and their rights. I ask you guys to please remember the separation of church and state. God does not create legislation over my body and yours. I ask you to please reflect and reconsider and please oppose Bill 291. Si Diyos Masi.
Si Diyos Masi, Mr. St. Nicholas. And Kayla Del Rosario.
Thank you. Hello, I am Kayla Del Rosario. I was born and raised on Guam, and I would like to let you know that I am opposed to Bill 291. Before those who object my opinion tune my story out, I pray that you will listen to my story. I was born into a family of 4, 2 girls, a mom and dad, and we followed a Christian Baptist religion. Being the youngest and rebellious, my mom was strict on me, extra strict. And growing up, my mom and our church taught me the bold line of what I should think is right and wrong. They also taught me that sex shouldn't happen to a person until they are grown up and married. I thought that was obvious, but going to a public school, my peers didn't follow these principles. When I was in 7th grade, I found out that one of my classmates was pregnant. At the age of 11, turning 12, I was shook. A young girl the same age as me was carrying a fertile seed. Overhearing her conversation with her friends during our lunch break, she cried, "I can't believe this happened to me. I wish I could get an abortion, but my nana won't allow it. It's against our religion, and I don't have the money to pay that off myself." Her words and her feelings stuck to me throughout most of my high school years. I realized that if I became pregnant, I would no longer have control over my life. So throughout high school, I fought my hormones as much as I could, but eventually I became of legal age and had intercourse. But of course, I protected myself. Condoms, birth control, even the morning after pill. I would not allow pregnancy to dictate my life. But even with my protection, I had many nights of pregnancy scares and paranoia. During my college years, Obama was president, and even when abortion was more available, you would be shamed by local clinics just by asking for an abortion procedure. And for the clinics who were doing these procedures, they would be ridiculed and then later closed down because of death threats. Even though I haven't birthed a child of my own, I was still pregnant. Last year, November 8th, 2021, I verified at a local clinic that I was pregnant. Some people would think that being 28, having a stable job, relationship, and a house to live in, one could be ready for a child. I did not think so at all. Even when my life on the surface looked nice and healthy, I was not stable in my mind yet. Sure, I had a stable job, but I was living paycheck to paycheck.
My partner had a child of his own and his own bills to pay. So, yes, having a child is affordably doable, but I was not ready. I chose because I feel that I am not ready to have a baby and bring it into this life because I couldn't even take care of myself and be confident that I could bring this baby into the world and make sure that this baby is safe and will be well nourished. So I looked to our local clinics for help, but all of the OB/GYN clinics would refuse any consultation or only offer to see me if I would go through the birth and pay a $4,000 deposit fee. I quickly realized that I will not get any help from Guam. How can I afford a plane ticket and an abortion procedure? I felt stuck, and I had to talk myself out of suicide multiple times before I could continue on with my hope and my search for help. Luckily, I found help in Saipan, and I was able to get a procedure from them. Even though I was able to receive treatment, they did not let me stay within their facilities for the procedure. So I was one of those girls who had an abortion in their bathroom. I rented an Airbnb and I made a little nest consisting of 2 blankets and a bunch of pillows. And I made this choice and I went through the 8 long, painful hours just so that I could have control over my life and make sure that I could focus on the broken things that are around me. Because wake up, people, we have a lot of broken things around us. Why do we not focus on the things that are already here instead of the things that are not here yet? There are so many people on Guam who could barely afford next month's rent. How can they support an unborn child from unexpected pregnancy? Don't get me wrong, I mourn the death of my unborn child. But once again, I stand by my choice and my decision so that I could live my life freely and help the things that are broken in my community. Women are pressured to have children when they are not ready. Our women should keep their choice free, and they should be allowed to choose if they are going to have a child or none at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Del Rosario. All right, I just want to thank all of you for your testimony. I'm very grateful for you to be here. And I want to also put on the record that, and I verified this several times, my staff has not received any verbal threats or assault or any misbehavior. In fact, I want to commend that we've received nothing but cooperation from those who have contacted our office and those who've wanted to register for testimony or just to provide testimony. So I want to thank the people of Guam for that. I also wanted to just put on the record that I am not aware of any Planned Parenthood on Guam, and there is no government-sponsored abortions that I have been able to find either. I checked, and Medicaid, there is an amendment where under Medicaid, abortion is not allowed unless there is rape, incest, or life endangerment, and those are the only times. Correct. So, other than that, I'm going to, Vice Speaker is not there. Senator Dueñas, if you have any questions or comments.
Madam Chair, I guess I would just, Ms. Martinez wants to express a comment, and I think that would be my question to her. What would be your comment, Ms. Martinez?
I just wanted to address the comment about not having Planned Parenthood on Guam. I I don't know for a fact that it's here, but I have read various articles about federal government giving monies to Planned Parenthood, subsidizing Planned Parenthood, and that's what I was referring to. And since federal monies come from taxpayers, that was my point.
No, I understand your comment, and I just wanted to clarify our Guam circumstances. Senator Dueñas? Senator Taitigui?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe this might be our last panel coming up, and I just want to thank everyone and those who testified before this panel as well. Thank you so much for coming out and expressing your feelings, whether for or against. But there is one question I'd like to ask, and I'd like to pose this to Ms. O'Malley. How would you feel if how would you feel if this bill became a referendum instead of voted by the legislature?
You know, to be honest, can you hear me? Okay. I first heard about this when it was under the consideration of a referendum. And it was brought to me in the form of a referendum. This was a long time ago. Oh my gosh, very long time ago. And I remember glancing at it. It was such a long, wow, it's so much to read. And I said to myself, and I honestly said to some of the people around me, there was a consideration of a referendum many years ago, and I found out how much it was going to cost. I found out how long it was going to take. I found out the time, and I even said to whoever showed me this, and I can't remember who showed it to me, and I was saying, this is almost an impossible task. If anyone's asking us to take this on, I don't want it. It's too much. It's way too much. And so I said, good luck to them, and we'll support them if they make this a referendum. Because to be honest, if this comes to a referendum, I honestly think the people will support this heartbeat bill. In all honesty. But it never went that far, and I almost never heard about it again. And then it came up to my attention that there was a bill coming up. And I said, oh, wow, these people really did do it. But they turned it into a bill. And later on, I found out they had the same thing. They found out how costly it was and how hard it was going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And it really was a long time ago. But if this came up as a referendum, I honestly think the people will vote for this bill.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That's all. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Senator Perez?
I have no questions. I just want to thank the panel for their points. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Brown?
Ms. Pat, I'll give my time to you. You want to say something? Sure.
Yeah, I just want to address the problem here that she went through when she was trying to get an abortion and she was suicidal. That was a fact. And yes, and we do have a crisis pregnancy center from here that expressed there's a need for that. If a pregnant woman is suicidal, we do address that with a crisis pregnancy. So nowadays, it can be addressed. It's very, very crucial, and it's sad that they have to experience suicidal thoughts because of a pregnancy.
Yeah,
I just want to thank you. Yes, it's called Safe Haven.
Can I bring one other thing up? She was talking about the cost and everything. I have heard through Facebook and everything that Dr. Shea is offering anybody who is pregnant and cannot afford to pay for the whole care of the pregnant woman so that she will not abort the child, and then he will help them, or there's a group that he has that turns them over for adoption. Yeah, so I have heard that.
Yeah, I saw that post.
I wish more doctors would do this, and this would help people like herself, because we have Rachel's Vineyard to try and help people like that. We really, no judgments.
Thank you, Ms.
He would only give her medical care, he said, if she was going to give the baby to him for adoption.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate all the testimony. I know that this is, anyone who advocates their position has very strong feelings, but I certainly appreciate you coming and expressing and letting us know your position with regards to this bill. So thank you very much for coming this afternoon. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Senator Blas. Senator Adat.
No questions, Madam Chair, just to thank the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Shelton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions for the panel, but I want to thank everyone for their time today and the testimony that they provided, and everyone else who's given their written testimony as well. Sudus Masi.
Thank you. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank everyone as well for coming to give testimony. This bill is about the heartbeat of a child. It's not about the other laws that are being passed in the states as far as the, let me pull up your testimony.
Can I respond?
The Don't Say Gay bill or the SB 184. This is about the Heartbeat Act, the right to life when you hear a heartbeat. So we're not even talking about this legislation in the act, just to clarify.
Could I respond?
To what I'm saying? Sure.
No, I'm aware that this specific bill 291 does not talk about the previous bills that I've mentioned, but why I did want to point it out is because this will open the door for it. I'm coming to you as someone who was scared. Right now, the right of choice is being threatened. What is next?
Okay.
And that's why I'm here telling you this.
I understand. But we're not here trying to open the door for that. That's the last thing that I want to do. I'm telling you that's the last thing that I want to do. I want to focus on this legislation. Okay? I want to thank you for your courage, for coming out. I know that it's very difficult to share your history, to share your story, so thank you for your courage, and you take care. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator. And again, so thank you to each of you on this panel for your testimony and your willingness to wait your turn on the panels, for your cooperation especially, and please be safe.
Thank you. Thank you for your offer. I really appreciate it.
Senators, pardon? No. Senators, colleagues, so that concludes, if we could close the door. Thank you. So Senators, that concludes those who have registered to testify for this afternoon's hearings. I will now allow the sponsor to close.
Are we starting in the evening at 6 p.m.? Okay, then I think we'll just break and I'll have a closing at the end of the hearing in the evening.
All right. So there being no additional individuals to present further testimony, the committee will recess this hearing and reconvene at 6 p.m. to receive further testimony on Bill 291-36 LS. All testimonies for this public hearing can be found at senatorterlajeguam.com, pending submission of the committee report, which will then be posted on the legislature's website. All those who are still wishing to register for testimony, please contact my office. The public hearing is now recessed. The time is 3:55 p.m. Situas Maasi.